Lining the Pacific Ocean is an ancient and violent strip of volcanic and seismic activity known as the Ring of Fire. Approximately 90% of the world's earthquakes take place here. Vancouver is located right in the center of it.
A lot of people don't really understand that this is a place that makes great quakes. It makes them infrequently, but it makes them. And so I think our society needs to prepare for that. We used to think there hadn't been big quakes on our coast. We lived in a so-called seismic gap. We were just fortunate where one plate descended easily beneath another. We don't make big quakes on our coast. Japanese researchers realized they had a ghost tsunami that had hit the coast of the Japanese islands, and there was no earthquake to account for it. And so they had maps of all the damage done to crops along the coast. They had indications of when the tsunami waves struck different parts of the coast. And so they started working with some researchers from Washington State. They worked backwards and realized the Great Quake came from our coast. And tsunamis traveled across the Pacific and did damage in Japan. So that was January 26, 1700. So that was the last great quake on our coast. And in our case, there's a small plate that sits below sea level, a series of small plates, the Juan de Fuca, the Gorda plate, the Explorer plate, and they're meeting the thicker and less dense North American plate. And where those two collide, the thinner, more dense oceanic plates sitting at the bottom of the ocean to the west of us, they move into the interior of the earth. They subside, and we call this a subduction zone. And to the west, just to the west of Vancouver Island, we have the Cascadia subduction zone, where one plate is subducting beneath another. And that's where we could expect the quote big one. That's where we can see, because we're measuring this, we can see that the one plate isn't sliding smoothly, it's actually locking with the other, such that the other plate is getting taller and shorter at its leading edge. And at some point, it's going to kick out, it's going to snap out. And as it snaps out, it kicks at the underside of the ocean. The water goes up and then the water's moving out in all directions, and we have a seismic sea wave, a series of seismic sea waves or tsunamis.
When the Juan de Fuca plate does finally give, it'll be the entire thing. So wherever it does give, the plate will move up or down, like a zipper. An earthquake of this size is considered a megathrust earthquake. In the event of a megathrust, there is no minimum safe distance. The entire west coast of BC will feel it. Yet regarding Vancouver in particular, there is a catalyst. Vancouver is located in the dead center of a layer of sedimentary rock known as the Georgia Basin. This rock, upon the arrival of earthquake waves, would act, according to UBC geologist Sherry Molnar, as a large tub of jello. This softer rock could actually amplify the earthquake's power in Vancouver and its surrounding area by 300 or 400%. Chile, 1960. The most powerful earthquake ever recorded, reaching 9.5 on the Richter scale. At exactly 3:11 p.m. on May 22nd, nearly 10 minutes of violent shaking ripped through the South American coastline, followed by numerous landslides and tsunamis. Approximately 6,000 people are killed. In more recent memory, Japan, 2011. A 9.0 earthquake rocks their eastern coast, triggering one of the deadliest tsunamis in modern history. Close to 25,000 people are killed, injured, or still missing to this day. And to make matters worse, the disaster causes the nearby Fukushima power plant into a meltdown, forcing another 200,000 people to evacuate. So, is a disaster of this scale brewing right under our feet? In BC, there are earthquakes nearly every day, with usually more than 300 a year. Thankfully, most are relatively small, rating in at about 1.5 to 4.0 on the Richter scale. The vast majority of these aren't even felt by the ordinary person, only causing very minor shaking. However, on October 28, 2012, a 7.8 earthquake, followed by about a dozen relevant aftershocks, hit Prince Rupert in northern BC. And at that magnitude, the shaking would have been felt. An earthquake of this magnitude is nearly equal to the Nepal earthquake in April of 2015, which killed over 9,000 people. Many experts are predicting a 9.0 or greater earthquake to hit Vancouver, roughly 900 times more powerful than what hit Prince Rupert. Imagine it's an ordinary day in Vancouver. People are going about their daily lives. Then, it hits. After hundreds of years, the Juan de Fuca plate finally gives. A massive, groundbreaking 9.0 earthquake shreds through the coast of BC and Washington. When it reaches Vancouver, the Georgia Basin only amplifies its effects. The increasingly violent shaking is immediately noticed, and citywide panic ensues. To the west, the Ruskin Dam quickly goes offline, and much of the lower mainland loses power as a result. Burrard Thermal, a natural gas plant in Port Moody, will likely kick in, trying to fill this gap, but it too goes offline after a short while. Fires begin to sprout up across the city as gas lines are severed. Self-service also goes down as towers experience damage along with the network being overloaded. But how would the Lions Gate Bridge hold up? The vast majority of structures across BC considered to be critical have received substantial seismic resistance upgrades. Unfortunately, according to Kevin Baskin, Chief Engineer to the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, these are designed to withstand between 6.5 to 7.0 magnitude quakes. There is no such thing as earthquake-proof, and 7.0 doesn't even come close to the sheer power of a megathrust earthquake. Although impossible to know for sure, it is a very real risk that large sections of the Lions Gate Bridge could collapse. The downtown area would also not get through unscathed. Due to the Georgia Basin, it is almost impossible to predict exactly what will happen, but it is beyond reasonable doubt that there would be heavy damage to even the most well-constructed buildings.
This is my office kit. I have an emergency kit at home. It's in a beat-up old backpack. I retired the backpack, and so I use it as my grab-and-go kit. This is another backpack that I saw on sale, and I thought, okay, this will be my office grab-and-go kit. I've got another one in my car. I know that if there's a significant quake, I'm not driving home. I'm walking. I've got some, kind of granola bars and some chocolate. Got some tuna that Jennifer taught me about, and it's actually got pull tabs, so I've got some protein, and we don't need a can opener to get to it. Here's an ancient pair of running shoes and some socks. When I retire runners, I put them in these old kits because it might be summer. I might be wearing sandals. Got some drinking water. There's a variety of bottles of water in here. I've got a drinking vessel that I could also pull some of my candles out and heat up if I needed to. I have my very nerdy wind up and crank. What are these things called?
Headlamps.
Thank you.
So
Headlamp.
you're welcome.
Oh, that's so bad. I can't think of the word headlamp.
And the reason that it's a wind-up headlamp and she has a wind-up flashlight is batteries are expensive. Batteries die. When they die, often they'll leak acid and horrible stuff with them, and they just don't last very long. For about $10 though, there's a variety of these shake lights.
I have some candles. I have some matches if I needed to heat some water up to get some warmth. in myself or other people, I could do that, but I'm not going to light those matches if I smell any gas. I'm going to do a scan of the area first and figure out whether it's safe. Some garbage bags. You know, garbage bags, very useful things. I could put a hole in the end of the bag and put it over my head and create a bit of a rain gear, but it's going to create a couple degrees body temperature difference if it's cold out. That's a very helpful thing. These you can buy kits already put together. They cost you money, or you can just pick up stuff on sale and pop it in. And the thing you have to remember to do is do it, right? I was talking about earthquakes, and I could see that one person in the room had an interesting look on her face. And so I talked to her after the class and said, I'm sorry, I hope that didn't bother you. I wonder if you've been in a setting where you've experienced a big quake. And I had asked that in class, but she hadn't said anything there. And when I asked after class, she said, yes, she had. She had survived the massive death toll in Haiti. And so we talked for a little while, and she seemed to do better talking about that. And I asked her if she would think about telling our class about that. And she thought about it, and she came to see me a couple days later and said, yes, she'd like to do that. And so she stood up and told her class about how when the earthquake struck in Haiti, she was with her family, and their house pancaked, so the lower structural supports failed, and they were trapped in the house. And they were trapped in the house for over a day, and she said it was because of their neighbors who came and got them out, that they survived. And she lost some family members then. But she was telling this very poignant story, and you could have heard a pin drop in the class. And she ended it by saying, if you had told me there would have been a great quake that would have taken my family members before that happened, I wouldn't have believed you. But it did happen. And I am telling you, you should do the things that you can to be prepared for that.